Welcome to episode 8 of Football Thunders, again sponsored by the Proper Blokes Club. Visit them on their website, www.theproperblokesclub.co.uk. They are walking to help men's mental health. They've also got a Facebook page to find out more where you can join up with them. Find them on Facebook and on their website. It's our first time in the studio together, all three of us. Normally we're on Zoom, but welcome Ryan Scott.
Hello.
Dan Finch.
Hello.
And me, Pete Finch. On this podcast, we're going to be looking, it's a special one, we're going to be looking at our all-time England 11s, bearing in mind some of us are a little bit older than the rest, and some are a little bit younger. I mean, bless. And also, underrated players, overrated players, and I think we're also looking at the England game on this one as well.
Yeah.
We're going to have a look at the... Oh, that's going to get salty, isn't it?
Should we start with the England game then?
Let's not start with the England game. Let's not. Let's go through it. Who's going to go first? Do you want me to go first with my England 11?
Yeah, go on, age before beauty.
We won't know half of your team because we weren't alive.
Age before beauty, go on.
Shit before shovel, some would say. See, so these are players I've seen play on the whole as well. I've actually seen these players. So goalkeeper, I had choices here. I got Peter Shilton, 125 caps. But I've gone for Gordon Banks, 73 caps. The best goalkeeper in the world. Any comments on Gordon Banks? Any arguments with Gordon Banks? Because I've picked all the keepers that you can pick from. I've got Gordon Banks. So
when Gordon Banks was playing football, I don't even think I was thought of. So no, I don't really have a comment.
I can tell you weren't even thought of, and neither were you.
No, but I have actually seen Peter Shilton play. It's a tough choice, whichever one you're going to pick. So you can't argue with either when you put them in.
Well, I think Gordon Banks just pisses over Peter Shilton every day of the week. Seriously.
125 times?
Well, Gordon Banks had 73 caps, and the reason he stopped playing is he had a car crash and lost his left eye. So that's why. Okay. Left back, I thought about Stuart Pearce.
Spoilers, Stuart Pearce makes my left back, so who did you pick instead?
Hang on, what are you...
I wasn't old enough to watch Stuart Pearce play football.
Euro 9. Oh, no, he was born in 96. Yeah, blimey, yeah. But I've gone for Kenny Sansom.
Oh,
I don't know.
Arsenal player, ex-Arsenal and ex-Palace. But ex-Arsenal player, he was best back. The other one I was looking at was, you don't know this guy either, Mick Mills. So older people will know Mick Mills, who was before Kenny Sansom, 1970s. He was the England captain. So I've gone for Kenny Sansom at left back. Right back, now I had several options, but I've gone for Gary Neville.
Oh, yeah, I can't argue with you. Surprise, surprise, he's going to be in mine and all. We'll get to mine after Pete's done his back line. But yeah, he's one of the most consistent fullbacks in England history. You can't argue with it.
Another choice I had at Gary was Gary Stevens, who again you wouldn't know, but Gary Neville. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, a spoiler, as Ryan said, he makes mine too. The only other was Glenn Johnson, and I'm not picking Glenn Johnson. So Gary Neville walks it in because I can't quite justify Luke Young, can I?
You can make an argument for Luke Young, but purely the fact that he's a Charlton player means no. No, you can't make an argument for Luke Young. But I don't think. But yeah, Gary Neville is just consistent, and 85 caps. It's not bad. The centre backs, right? I've met one of them, Terry Butcher.
Yeah, can't argue with that one. He's a hero. Everyone remembers the blood-drenched image.
Poland.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't argue with that one.
Terry Butcher.
I know the image.
Okay.
And I know Terry Butcher's England career, but not one that featured in my lifetime. So out.
Well, you're knackered on the next one. His defensive partner is Bobby Moore.
Oh, you can't argue with it. It's Bobby Moore. What more can you say? The man's a legend. Even I know who Bobby Moore is, and I've seen old black and white photos and black and white video before you knew what a colour TV was. Yeah.
I didn't even have a TV back in those days.
I don't even think I was alive when Bobby Moore passed away, sadly. So let alone watch him play football, I don't even think he was alive, bless him.
Well, people of a certain age, but I was also looking at Des Walker in there because I love Des Walker, underrated centre back, and got crucified by Graham Taylor. What Graham Taylor did to Des Walker to finish his England career was criminal.
Underrated, yes, but when you look at some of the centre backs we've had since his time, he's not making it for me.
Did you see him at Italia 90?
Yes, I also watched him play in Italy. He was fantastic, but I've got two others in my team that would walk in ahead of him.
Okay. Okay. Right wing. Oh no, I'm going to go left wing. I've got John Barnes. I think left wing is really difficult throughout the years as an England supporter. I can't remember any outstanding. Colin Bell was played out on the left wing, Man City player, and neither of you would know. So I've gone John Barnes. Dan?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I know about John Barnes is when he was quite old and overweight, he played for Charlton.
Number 37.
Yeah, so I've seen the video. I mean, the goal in Brazil, I think, is the goal that everyone talks about. But as a player for England, I can't really comment apart from World in Motion.
Another good thing is watch the England-Argentina World Cup quarter-final of 1986 Mexico. Lineker scores from a Barnes cross that is just perfect. There was another cross in the dying moments from John Barnes that Lineker missed. But it just demonstrates how good Barnes was. What do you think about John Barnes?
Yeah, can't argue with it. I grew up in the early 90s watching football, and he was obviously in his pomp and then slightly coming towards the end of his career with Liverpool and then on to Charlton. Yeah, you can't argue with his selection for during the day, but he's another one that doesn't make my side.
Now, my midfield. I'm going to name them both now because this is really tough. Really, really tough. Because I've watched some midfielders. I have watched some midfielders in my time play for England. But I have gone for two central midfielders. Brian Robson.
Yeah, can't argue with that. Man's a legend.
Because this is in his pomp. Brian Robson at his very best when he was box to box. Scored the quickest goal in the World Cup against France in 1982. Even with a perm.
Yes, can't argue that.
You've never seen Brian Robson play, have you?
No, I was born in 1996. I think I've seen one member of your team play.
You've probably seen him manage, but more than
Yeah.
you've seen him
Yeah.
play.
Well, you say managed. He wasn't that good. And alongside him, in his pomp, before we get injured, Gaza. Pound for pound, the best England player. I know, yeah. 57 caps. He's there.
You put him twice.
Oh, that's just a subs bench.
You can't put Gazza on the bench and start.
Yeah, I'm not putting him on the bench. That was a mistake. But Gaza, what do you
But
think?
everyone knows about Gazza, don't they? Their qualities. The Euro 96, the Scotland goal, and magic against Holland as well. So I think no one could complain about Gazza. Just a shame how his career.
I'm picking players at their peak, when they were at their peak. And Gaza, well, he never really missed his peak because of the injury. But at 1990, he was sensational.
Yeah, I can't disagree. Even in the latter stages of his career at Rangers, where he had that renaissance after coming back from Lazio, he was amazing. And shock, surprise, he makes my team as well.
I was looking at Lampard and Gerrard. And Lampard because he scored nearly 30 goals for England in midfield. But and looking up front, Owen, 89 goals, 40 games, close. I didn't even consider Rooney because for me, Rooney never achieved the potential that he had.
Oh, I'm going to disagree with you. Sorry. I think Wayne was maybe just a little bit overhyped because he was so young. I think he's gone on to have a stellar career. I don't think anyone can argue with Wayne Rooney's career. I just think because he was so young and because the tendency with the British press back in them days was the minute you get a new super kid, oh yeah, he's going to be the next Pele and the next Maradona. I don't think he was ever going to be that, but he's top scorer for England, top scorer for Man United, won everything. You can't argue with Wayne Rooney, but it's your team.
Yeah, I think I agree with Ryan. Michael Owen's obviously got qualities that you can't debate, even as a young kid. Argentina 98 comes to mind. And then even when I started watching football, the World Cup in South Korea in 2002, the World Cup in 06, but doesn't make mine either.
Okay, he's just not making mine. He's not making mine. This is what I'm saying.
Owen doesn't
nor Rooney. Rooney didn't even get considered. Owen's on the bench. I've gone for two players up front. The difficulty for me was I saw Lineker play with Beardsley, and that combination was amazing. Peter Beardsley. That combination was just amazing. But I couldn't pick Beardsley.
How would you compare them to Sheringham and Shearer then?
Better.
Ooh,
Better.
cold.
Can't comment on that one either.
Better. Much better. Honestly, better because they did it at a World Cup. 2 World Cups. Yeah, they did it at 2 World Cups. I just think that was a better combination. Shearer and Sheringham was a great combination, but I just don't. But so I've gone for Gary Lineker as my main striker. 48 goals for England in 80 games. Alongside him, but slightly back from him, Bobby Charlton.
Yep, can't argue with Bobby Charlton. The man's a
106
legend.
caps, record goal scorer. Well, was the record goal scorer until Wayne Rooney. Bobby Charlton, one of the most impressive left foots I've ever seen in my life.
And one of the most impressive human beings. I have actually, little known fact, I actually won a competition it was a Bobby Charlton Soccer Sports Day, and I won a competition when I was in primary school, and I actually got one coaching session with Bobby Charlton. It's my claim to fame.
Wow. Still
The
shit, though.
man is amazing. I was still rubbish, yeah. Bobby Charlton was amazing. He must have been about 50, 60 by then when it was happening, and he didn't have any hair then either, but yeah, that's my claim to fame. I have actually received a pass from the great man.
I was coached by Colin Powell and Ray Tunbridge.
No idea who they
I've
are.
got connection.
Colin, but you've got a connection with Colin Powell. So Bobby Charlton. go on.
Yeah, I think Bobby Charlton, he's such a huge name for England and Man United that even my generation and possibly even generation that's coming that will watch football now will know who Bobby Charlton is, just from his history of England winning the World Cup, his performances for England, and then, as Ryan said, he's a Man United cult hero, maybe the cult hero. Of
He's
Manchester
an
United.
icon. There's no cult hero.
Now,
He's an
when I
icon.
was a kid, and I'm going back to the 70s now, a long time ago. But we went out I went out to Malta, my first ever foreign holiday with my mum and the wanker. Sorry, my stepdad. Not all stepdads are wankers, though, are they? Careful how you fucking answer this. I've got a right hand right there.
Yeah.
No. So I went out to Malta, and I was kicking on the last day. Our flight was in late at night, so we had to spend the day at this sports club in the middle of Malta, and I was playing football with these Maltese kids, and they worked out I was English, and all they kept calling me was Bobby Charlton. And these kids in Malta, and they were like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-year-olds, and they knew who Bobby Charlton was. And everywhere you go in the world, even now, everywhere you go in the world, Bobby Charlton. He was.
He's almost the romantic look on football, isn't he? Worldwide, he's one of the players that when you say football and romance, like a lot of people will say Bobby Charlton with the names that throw around.
I think obviously it also ties in with what happened to the Busby Babes
Yes,
as well,
big thing.
because it's just one of the saddest stories connected to football, in my opinion. And
If
it's
that
just-
hadn't happened, I would be putting Duncan Edwards in
Yeah,
here, I suspect.
I wouldn't
I've never
surprise-
seen
wouldn't be
any
surprised.
footage of him playing, but from what people like Bobby Charlton say, Harry Gregg and other people who aren't Man United players but played with Duncan Edwards at England level, they just said he was going to be the world's best player. He had the physique, the ability, everything.
And unless I'm not mistaken as well, Bobby Charlton was also known as the gentleman's footballer. He never got booked, never got sent off as
Neither
far
did
as I'm
Gary
aware.
Lineker. Neither did Lineker.
Yeah, but he didn't do much apart from come out of the 6-yard box.
No, he
so,
didn't.
Let's be honest.
He was going to get booked in a league game, and he chased the referee, and he said, "I've never been booked. Please don't book me up." It's towards the end of his career when he was at Tottenham. He ran around after the ref. Please don't book me. He
But-
was having a bad day.
But I mean, people romanticise about Maradona and Pele, and for me, I think
don't
Bobby
romanticize.
Charlton's right up there with them. He's an
Yeah.
icon of football wherever you are.
I
in the world.
will say right here and now, I will never ever romanticise Maradona because I think he was a busted flush. No. I don't, the handball, fair enough. Yeah, but that's football. He
First
cheated.
mention of Salty.
He was 1994. He was a drugs cheat.
Time of saltiness.
No, he got kicked out in 1994 because he was on the old. He was
But
taking.
he was gone by then. When
I don't give a dustman's fart.
And also, I don't remember what you might have to edit this out. But I think it was 2018, the World Cup. You see that he was doing some certain
He's dead now, he ain't
substance.
gonna
He was doing some certain substances.
Crazy Diego.
He was caught doing certain substances on the bench. I think it was.
Which is better than Joachim Low, who was caught scratching his arse and sniffing his finger. That was even much better. But Pele, Bobby Charlton's up there with Pele.
Absolutely.
And so is Bobby Moore as well, to be fair. And Beckenbauer, players like that, at a certain level. And Cruyff,
Muller.
Gerd Muller, who died recently. Yeah, that's my England team anyway. With manager. Oh, here we go, manager.
Oh, manager.
Bobby Robson. I loved Bobby Robson, and he got slaughtered as England manager. What?
I'm just thinking about my managerial choices.
You think about your managerial
I've
choices.
got a choice.
Should I go next then to save you some time?
You do know that Alex Ferguson got offered the England job twice.
Yes,
Have
and
you
he turned
seen-
it down.
Have you seen?
Did you also know that you were talking about Peter Beardsley earlier? That he signed for Man United but never played a
He went to
game
Vancouver Whitecaps.
and then left.
he went,
Yeah.
He went to Vancouver Whitecaps.
So
in Canada.
people rave
Yeah.
about Peter Beardsley, but it was actually a Man United player. for
David
about
Platt
5
was
minutes.
as well. David Platt started a Man U, got released.
Anyway.
And Robbie Savage. Have a listen.
Well,
And David Patrici.
right, we'll go through my
Dylan Levitt.
11 then.
Go on then.
While Dan's trying to figure out
I've done
his
it. It's all good. I
manager.
didn't have
You got a
any
manager?
options. Didn't have options.
I'll start off with the manager. For me, I was a teenager at Euro 96 when football came home. We hit the semi-finals. So for me, Terry Venables is my manager to start off with.
Actually, a good manager.
He was a very good manager. Obviously, it ended a little bit acrimoniously, shall we say.
Well, because he wasn't a yes man and he wasn't the FA's
Exactly.
squeaky clean, and so we lost the best manager we'd had, and we got Glenn Hoddle.
I think that's another reason why we've never had Harry Redknapp as the England manager as well.
That's not a loss to me.
He's a bit. But anyway, so yes, Terry Venables is my manager.
Okay.
Shock horror.
Your goalkeeper. What do you think of his manager, Dan? First of all,
I mean, I was born.
you was born, yeah. You were born in
and
'96.
but
so-
my memory of Terry Venables is, I think he was at Leeds, right?
yeah.
Yes.
That's about it.
He also went into he went to Middlesbrough as Brian Robson's assistant when it was all going Pete Tong.
Yes.
So,
I don't remember Ryan Robson. I remember Steve McLaren at Middlesbrough.
Steve.
Steve.
You've not considered Steve McLaren, the one with the volley.
Absolutely not.
Best England manager of all time statistically, Sam Allardyce.
Yes,
One game, one win.
I think he's up there with Howard Wilkinson.
And
isn't
I
he?
think you'll find that Southgate's it's getting a listen. He'll get
we'll get back to we'll get around to Southgate.
a bit later.
Right back, as I've already said, Gary Neville, consistency, performance, stamina. He wasn't the most talented football player in the world, but some people argue that Philip Neville was more talented. I respectfully disagree. Phil Neville.
Sorry?
Yep.
Who argues that?
A lot of people have said that.
Can you get them on the blower? I
Yeah.
don't have a fucking.
A
chat
lot of
with them.
people have said that when Gary was signed because they wanted Phil, and Gary ended up coming through and being the better player after all. But yeah, so Gary Neville, I think we've already discussed. He's makes your
Salty over
side.
that one.
Dan's already agreed with that one. Left back.
And I'll
sorry,
tell you
go on.
why. Well, I've got Neville and Beckham, and what they did together
Yeah, but
as
down
a
the wing,
combination
yes.
on that right.
I don't think it was quite as effective for England as it
No,
was for Man United, but
Yeah.
But I
Anyway,
think that's more when you hear about stories of England back in those days. It seemed very much club divided. When you talk to, like, I don't know if you've seen a recent interview with David James, and he says
Yeah.
that the Man United players hung out together. The Chelsea, the squad never gelled enough to get those
whereas
relationships.
You look at the squad now, and they seem to be a team
Yeah,
rather
precisely.
than a squad or a group of players.
for my era, which is what I'm nearly 40
You going
now.
left back next?
Yeah, I'm going left back. There was two major ones really for my era to consider, which was Stuart Pearce and Ashley Cole. Ashley Cole, a lot of people like, and a lot of people think he's probably England's best
Hang
left
on.
back.
No, Chris Powell.
No, I'm afraid not. That's another confetti cap, isn't
It's
it?
scandalous, that is.
I did consider Ashley Cole, and a lot of people like Ashley Cole, but I've gone for Stuart Pearce. I think the man's a legend. His attitude on the pitch, his work rate, and he was actually a really good defender, and he had a hell of a shot on him and all. Hell of a shot on him.
And when he tackled you, you stayed tackled.
You stay tackled.
Yeah, he was proper. I mean,
We
there's-
need players like Stuart Pearce today.
There was a photograph.
Get sent off every week.
Charlton played West Ham in about when Charlton were in the Premier League, and Pearce was at the back, and he tackled Jonathan Johansson, who was playing out on the wing, who made the stupid mistake of going past Stuart Pearce on one occasion. And the next thing you know, Johansson is on the floor, and then there's a photograph of when he's put Johansson on the floor of Stuart Pearce standing over. You know the Spain penalty picture when he's screaming at Johansson on the floor like that. It's just you don't want to be you don't want to be up against. The only time I've seen anyone take anyone out like that was him. Dan. He actually took out Paul Elliott's son.
No,
You did.
Just,
You took him
just for
out.
defence.
No, you took him
No,
out.
I think I need to defend myself. My manager told me that their playmaker was running the game, and I needed to take him out of the game. He meant mark. He didn't tell me mark him, so
said
I
take
took
him
him out.
He genuinely did. It was one of the worst tackles I've seen in history. I had Paul Elliott stood next to me and he went, "Oh," because it was his son, and I went, "Fucking hell." And I denied any knowledge that he was anything to do with me. It's a set of a tackle, isn't it? So Stuart Pearce, yeah, go on, centre back.
Centre backs, this was really tough.
Well, hang on, I'll make it Rio. Carry on.
What's What's wrong with Rio?
Centre half is really tough because I've seen some really good ones. Tony Adams in his prime,
Yeah.
Sol Campbell in his prime, Rio Ferdinand, John Terry. It was really, really tough. Number one, I've gone for Tony Adams. I think he was
Natural leader. Yeah,
he
no,
was
that's fair.
a natural leader. He was actually a very gifted football player as well. A lot of people underrate with how good he was with the ball.
Yeah.
And the other one, Pete called it as a whisper, but it's going to be Rio Ferdinand for
Too
me.
right.
He was the Rolls Royce of defenders that I think it separates
pass.
from the other ones. His passing,
Yeah.
his reading of the game. When you just
His
saw him
pace.
run on the pitch, especially when he was younger, it was just like he floated across the surface and got to defenders really easily.
Every defender now that you watch, Harry Maguire said it, John Stones has said it. There's a lot of even foreign defenders have said that they watched Rio Ferdinand because of his ability to come out with the ball in a time when defenders were, I'll smash you and get the ball, where Rio
And
Ferdinand brought the ball out.
The first time I ever saw Harry Maguire play, unfortunately, was an FA Cup quarter-final for Sheffield United.
story.
No, but he would come through. He would pick the ball up in his own half, and he would he still does it for
Thanks for
England.
the memories, huh?
And he would come. He would just wander through the Charlton midfield. I mean, everyone wandered through the Charlton midfield on that day. Possibly the worst day of my life. No, seriously, footballing wise, it was pretty
that was
rank.
painful.
It was really painful. Get all excited because we're going to Wembley, and then,
The
they
thing
never
for
turned
that
up.
game, on a separate note, was we were a championship side. They were in a league below us, and I know it sounds silly, but there was two championship sides in the semis, wasn't there? It was Hull
Yeah.
and Wigan. So
Yeah.
there was a genuine chance that Charlton could have been in the FA Cup final. I mean, we
Yeah.
would have been battered by
Well,
Arsenal in the final.
We'd have got no. We would
have had Hull at Wembley
Yeah.
in the semis, and then we would have had Arsenal in the playoff. And Harry
So
Maguire.
for us as fans, we're sitting here watching this game, going to this game at Sheffield United, thinking it's quarter final, we could win this. And I'm going to be commentating at Wembley. What a dream that is! He's going to watch his team play at Wembley.
I did anyway a few years
And
ago.
yeah, we did. But then, but Harry Maguire stood out in that game because and I remember talking to Terry, my co-commentator, and saying he reminds me of Ferdinand the way he brings the ball out, because Ferdinand was the first player that I saw bring the ball out like that.
Having said that, our strikers on the day I could mark because it was Marcus Tudgay and Marvin Sordell.
Yeah.
So
And
I could.
and the players pretty much went into the game knowing the manager was going to get sacked the following day.
not ideal.
Oh dear. Anyway, midfield was.
Back to
back to England. Midfield was even tougher. Some of the players,
hard, isn't it?
some of the players we've had. You look at the recent generations of the Lampard.
If you haven't got Carlton Palmer in here, we're going to have a chat.
The Lampard and the Gerrard debate, Paul Scholes. You've got Brian Robson. You've got Paul Gascoigne. I'd give a shout to Paul Ince as well. I think he did quite well for England, and that's not even me being salty because he left Man United and ended up at Liverpool.
Euro 96, he was absolutely crucial to that midfield
but
in
I'm
Euro
going-
96.
Pete's gone 4-4-2. I'm going to go slightly different. I'm going 4-3-1-2. So my first choice in midfield is I've gone with someone that Pete's also gone with, which is Brian Robson. The man's an icon. He's a Man United legend.
Leader.
It's gone over Dan Z, so we won't talk about that one.
We'll get into some YouTube clips in a while.
The next one is Dan will be able to talk about is Paul Scholes.
Yeah, I mean, Paul Scholes isn't in mine, but I mean, what a player. Because the thing for me, and I'll say it early on, I watched Paul Scholes play left wing, not necessarily centre
England,
midfield.
yeah.
So I saw him as a passing left winger and not the midfielder that I think he was when I was younger, but obviously was too young to remember.
I think what you need to do is you need to just Google quotes by players who were around in those days.
I remember-
like Zinedine Zidane. He said
I mean-
the best player in the world. He said the most underrated player is Paul Scholes, the most criminally underused player.
I remember, just because this was an England 11, I remember watching Paul Scholes at the Valley with you as quite a young man, and obviously it was fantastic. I'm aware that even when he came back from retirement at 37, he's still one of the best players on the pitch. So obviously I'm very aware of his talent. It's just when I watched him for England, he mainly played left wing.
He couldn't tackle. Well, he could tackle. He just didn't like to. But when he did,
Oh no, he could tackle.
He could tackle,
Just
but he
wasn't
couldn't.
well timed.
No. He could tackle, but he was just at times he was a dirty little bastard. At times.
But it's what made him half the player that he was.
Yeah. Right. Next.
The third one, a little bit lopsided, but David Beckham. I think for me, his work rate. I think David Beckham's actually massively underrated by a lot of people. They talk about his delivery, they talk about his fame and the ladies and the lifestyle and everything. But I think he was a massively underrated player. His delivery was fantastic. His technique was great. He had a great engine, excellent work rate, excellent attitude. So he makes the squad for me.
I don't think he was as good as people say he was. I said this like the other week, and we had a bit of an argument then.
Oh, Dan's left the room.
Dan's
He's not having that one.
I just thought he could, yeah. But that's my opinion. Dan, what you?
I think you're wrong.
Yeah, well, that's fine. That's fine.
Quite frankly.
I just think he was a tad overrated. But I had him in my side because he is the best.
The thing with him, I think, and I get that a lot of people do actually think he's overrated, but I think a lot of people get, as Ryan said, they get too wound up in his social life, his love life, his business life, and that almost takes a step above his playing career. Watch his playing career. I know he was a set piece merchant, but I think there was a lot of times earlier on in his career, especially I'd say when I watched him, like when I used to go to Charlton, I was quite young, but 2002-ish, he was the one who stood out on the pitch.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
The man in the hole, the number 10,
Steady.
behind the two strikers is Paul Gascoigne. He was.
Put him there, are you?
He was amazing. He was
You're just going to give him the freedom of the pitch.
unbelievable.
That's what you got to do.
The guy was a maverick. I mean, the thing that always summed up Gascoigne for me, and this was later in stage of his career, was his goal against Scotland, where he just knocked the ball very casually over Colin Hendry's head, brought it down on the half volley, smashed it in the back of the net.
It's not even like Colin Hendry was a bad player, was it?
No, he wasn't.
He
was
didn't
a very good
that,
centre.
that was an instinctive thing. That wasn't. That's
Gascoigne rolled up into one.
Yeah. I totally agree. I could tell you a story about Gascoigne because when I used to work at Charlton when Dan was quite young in the Premier League days, I used to have when I was a steward, and one of the jobs I had to do was be in the tunnel and come out with the teams. I did that for a while, and one of the games was Middlesbrough against Charlton. Right, and there's a little mascot at the front, and he's quite happy, and he's sitting there, and he's ready to. Everyone's lined up, the teams are lined up. Andy Townsend's missing, the captain is missing, so just waiting for Andy Townsend before the ref gets everyone out on the pitch, and there's a little mascot there. He's got a big smile on his face, the Middlesbrough mascot, and Townsend's come up and can hear his voice go, "Where's me fucking shirt? Who's had me shirt? I can't find my shirt." Andy Townsend couldn't find his match shirt. I tell you where it was. The mascot was wearing it. Gaza had given it to the mascot and taken him round the whole dressing room and got all the Middlesbrough players to sign it, including Andy Townsend, and given it to the mascot. So Townsend's looking for his shirt, the mascot's wearing it. And another thing that happened is as we were lined up, I felt my arse get pinched, and it was Gaza as he walked past me. But he was a player when I was.
His technique is another one that just glided across the pitch. Like there was just
at his peak,
he could just float.
I mean, I think when Glenn Hoddle didn't take him to the World Cup in '98 was a travesty.
I think it says everything. If Sir Alex Ferguson says he's one of the players I regret not getting,
He tried
multiple times.
I think that says
he
everything.
tried to get him before we went to Tottenham. I think if Ferguson had got his hands on him before he went when he was at Newcastle instead of Tottenham, Ferguson would have controlled him.
I think there's only two
He
players.
he would have caused the problems, and eventually Ferguson would have had enough of him. But I think that he'd have got.
sure.
I think he'd have got the best out of Gaza.
I don't.
I think he'd have handled Gaza properly, whereas with Ferguson handled Cantona.
Yeah,
Where he and loads of players say, yeah, you've got to make allowances for a genius, and I
Yes.
think Ferguson would have done that.
I
with
don't
Gaza.
think he would have got bored with him, like you said, the way he handled Cantona, and Cantona was notorious for breaking
A
rules.
child legend.
It was
Well,
just-
I mean, he's a legend. He dived into the
even
Selhurst
simple
Park. He
little
did
things.
Great
There's-
work at Selhurst Park that night.
There's a lot of stories from like the Man United players of that time where they were like Cantona just broke every single rule and got away with it.
Yeah.
There were even silly little things like they'd go out for a team dinner and they'd all have to wear suits, and Cantona would walk in a
t-shirt.
suit and a t-shirt and trainers, and Alex Ferguson would be like, "You haven't worn a suit. You haven't worn a suit. You're in trouble. You're fined." And then
It was-
Cantona walks in and he's like, "Oh, now lads, that's style." You know what I mean?
It would be interesting to speak to Gascoigne and find out what he thinks where he should have gone when he left Newcastle.
I
Should
agree.
he? I would think he will probably say in reality that he should have gone to Man United.
I think the only, I think for me, as you rightly said, a player when Ferguson has said I should have signed him, and I think I've only ever heard him say two. That was Gascoigne, and in an interview with Gary Neville recently, he said he really should have signed Shearer when he tried.
He tried, but he also regretted getting rid of Jaap Stam He got rid of him far too quick, he says, as well.
Yeah, but that was just because he wrote something naughty in a book.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Up front,
Oh, yeah.
his name's already been mentioned for the first choice. Is Wayne Rooney. He's England's top goal scorer currently, although I think Harry Kane's going to have that. I think he's one of the most capped England players as well, isn't he? If not the most capped.
I think he's 125.
His record for Man United is frightening when you consider that he's not actually an out-and-out goal scorer.
I've got a problem with him, and not with his records and his ability, but I don't think he made enough of his ability. I don't think he worked at his game enough. Because you hear tales that Cristiano Ronaldo has improved and become the player he did because of the amount of work he put on the training ground. When training finished, Cristiano Ronaldo would stay out there, and Rooney wouldn't.
I actually don't think that was his problem. I think his biggest problem was actually his selflessness. Because when he played for Man United, he had a couple of seasons where he played up front as the main man, and he walloped goals in left, right and centre. But he was also the first person to sacrifice himself for the team, for tactics, for formations, and he ended up moving around the pitch, going backwards and backwards and backwards, but it still doesn't stop him from setting the records that he set.
Yeah, I think also you need to remember that Rooney was at United 11 years. I'd say at least 5 of them he played in a midfield or a more deeper role than a striker. No. So to score the goals and the assists and the overall contribution he made, he's not just a striker. He spent a year in midfield, like just as a midfielder.
Yeah, and I mean the biggest example I can give is the year that we played. One of the years we played Barcelona in the European Cup. They had like a 36-year-old Silvinho at left back or something, and Alex Ferguson cocked up his tactics royally, put Wayne Rooney out on the left wing and put Ronaldo up front.
He still. That's the one you got mullered at Wembley, wasn't
yes.
it? He still talks about that. And
yeah,
he got his tactics wrong.
Completely wrong by his own admission.
He wanted to change in the first half. He wanted to bring Park on to keep Messi quiet, and he didn't do it, and it cost Man United the game. And Ferdinand agrees that if he brought him on, we would have won that game. So,
Dan's scribbling away furiously for a later episode. And joining Wayne Rooney up front to complete my side is, shock, horror, no surprise, it's Alan Shearer. I know he had a very slow start to his England career. He went a long time without scoring goals.
About 18
months.
But
in my defence, I was 15 years old at Euro 96. And he came alive and walloped everything that was in front of him. And after that, he just went on a run. I do want to give an honourable mention, though, to Teddy Sheringham, who, had I listed a bench, I would have named him on the bench. I don't think I've seen another player like Teddy Sheringham until Harry Kane come along, because he kind of reminds me of Sheringham a lot. Shearer gets the final spot for me.
That Shearer spell where he got picked by Graham Taylor, and I think initially, and he got a couple of goals early on in his career, and then Terry Venables pretty much said, right, you're going to be my striker for Euro 96, and he didn't score a goal for 18 months. Did not score a goal, and the press were going, you've got to do something about Shearer. And Terry Venables spent the whole time saying he's going to be our top scorer. He's going to score goals, and the press were not having it. And well, they soon shut up after the Euro 96. But yeah.
So that's my 11. I haven't done subs benches because I could be there forever.
No Michael Owen at all?
No, for me, I mean, he started on fire, but once his hamstrings went, that was it.
The elastic bands for hamstrings.
He was better off at his horses. I mean, to be fair, you can't knock the man being a businessman. He managed to screw money out of Newcastle and Man United for years. So there you go.
He scored 40 goals in 89 games, I'll have you know.
Yeah, I'm no doubt. He did a fantastic job for England, but how many of those came after he was about 24?
Well, but we're picking.
He had about a 4 or 5 year career, whereas like the others, like Wayne Rooney, went on for about 12 years.
He's got a hamstring like a chocolate teapot, doesn't he?
Danny Haynes hamstrings. Yeah. Okay, who's your manager? Christ, is that your team?
That's my team.
That's your team.
Terry Venables.
On to the young uns now.
Right, so I'll start off my manager because I don't have many options. My managerial tenure was Sven.
Yeah.
McLaren.
I know where he's going.
Roy Hodgson.
Oh, this is going to go down like a pork sausage.
And technically Sam Allardyce and Gareth Southgate.
Where are you going?
So it's Gareth Southgate, isn't it, really?
Oh, my God!
Ryan, you want to comment on his manager? I can't argue with him.
To be fair, I mean, we'll get into the England stuff later and Gareth Southgate later, but you really can't knock his record. So I understand why Dan's picked him.
The thing is, when I was young,
Not
and
Capello.
we'll get to our... Oh, and Capello, I forgot about it, but no. When I get into my team, you'll see a theme. But
Not Roy Hodgson.
Not Roy Hodgson.
Okay.
He's a Palace as well. It doesn't help. When you look at like my team, I said I'll get to it in a minute. But when I grew up, I was being told that this was the golden generation, and that generation did diddly squit. And then
You can swear.
I got through the 2010s where we weren't supposed to do much and we didn't. And then all of a sudden, going into the World Cup in Russia, it was, well, this is a young team. We'll see what they do. And okay, the run through to the semi-finals was easy with quotations. But it was the first time in my lifetime, and I think I've said it on a previous podcast, it was the first time that I felt the country get behind England. And I felt that Gareth Southgate was the reason for that.
No, I'll tell you what the reason was for that. It wasn't Gareth Southgate. It was because the games were being held in this country.
No,
That's
the World Cup in Russia.
Oh, sorry.
I'm talking 2018.
No, I'm totally agreement. I'm totally, because what Southgate managed to do in the time that he took over the job from
Allardyce.
Allardyce, what he did was he managed to create Club England. He created a squad, and he made it clear we're a team. And he then also tried to sort out the divide that was there between the newspapers, the press, and the players and the fans. And he made sure he had people around him that would make sure that the press got access to the players. I mean, at that World Cup, they were playing darts against the press. The players were being photographed in a swimming pool with unicorns, and they're doing lots of. There was loads of stuff.
For the first time in my lifetime,
interacted.
For the first time in my lifetime, I think they were made to come across like humans.
I think the other thing is I think we've seen I can't believe I'm going to say this actually, but I think we've got to give the press a little bit of credit as well, because in recent years they've stopped actually attacking the players.
Oh no, they will.
Unless you're Raheem Sterling.
No, not if you, I mean, just look at what the press did with David Beckham after he got sent off in '98.
Oh yeah.
And you compare it to the way the press are now.
Well, the way they were with the
It's
three lads,
very
at the
different.
penalty was amazing.
But I also feel it's also a generational change with the fans. I think the fans now, and just in society in general, as me and Ryan have discussed, but we won't go into politics. I think the backlash is a lot bigger with everything now. So when something comes up and someone's being attacked, the people come together to anti it. If you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Social media.
Social
they're
media,
responsible
yeah.
for that.
If you, I mean, you're both too young to remember 1994 World Cup qualifying. John Barnes got crucified by the press on several occasions.
I remember
and
that.
it was horrible. It was horrible. And there was an angle of it to me that you look back and you think,
There was
yeah,
racism
that's
in that.
racism. That's out and out racism.
But they still did that for a long time now. The way
Oh,
they
they will.
treat Raheem Sterling a few years
until
back.
recently, yeah.
For
Yeah.
stupid
And
stuff
Marcus
like
Rashford
Raheem
gets it
Sterling
up.
bought his
Yeah,
mum.
but to be honest, it's still going on. I don't know if you guys
It
have
is,
seen
yeah.
Rashford's getting it.
There's
still.
a story in the Mail right now where Rashford's just been criticised for investing in properties. He's bought like 3 houses for about £2 million.
Have they had a go at Robbie Fowler in his career because he bought up half of Liverpool?
Yeah, and they are now trying to frame Marcus Rashford a little bit differently.
That
because
won't work because the
here's
public
this
like-
multi-millionaire spending all this money when he's complaining about the government not giving money to kids.
Two things. The public won't let them get away. Won't listen to that. And secondly, it's Daily Mail, and they're a racist bunch of scumbags
But
anyway.
do you remember? I think it was just before the World Cup in Russia, if I'm correct. Sterling bought his mum a house,
Yeah,
and people were attacking. Sterling buys mum mansion. Who cares? He's looking after his mum. I don't care what he does.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I don't think there's a footballer alive that hasn't bought their parents a house.
no. So,
all right, yeah,
we'll
carry
get
on.
on with my team. So the keeper I had again. Choices are a bit.
Scott Carlson. Yeah.
No, not Scott
okay.
Carlson. So
Joe Hart.
no, not Joe Hart.
Yeah, you did.
I don't think you named a
I don't think you
keeper.
named the keeper. Who was your keeper?
Did I? Sorry, Dan. If
No,
I
go
didn't
on.
name a goalkeeper, it's going to have to be David Seaman because he was the most consistent goalkeeper I've
fair enough.
seen in my England lifetime. Sorry,
Well,
Dan. Back to you,
David
mate.
Seaman was England keeper for a long time.
Loved
wasn't
the
he?
lot.
Was, yes,
Love the lob.
Yeah, that's my first memory of
but
David
he
Seaman.
could kick a ball over Mars.
So go back to keepers. Obviously, when I was young, the keeper was David Seaman. My first memory of one of my early memories of football on the England side of things was England-Brazil. Actually, England-Denmark in the World Cup in 2002. But England-Brazil was the first time I remember David Seaman when he got done by Ronaldinho.
Yeah.
But then obviously apart from that, I wouldn't say we've had that many great keepers.
Yeah.
Even Pickford now, I'm not a huge fan of. So my keeper's Paul Robinson.
That's not a bad shout.
Hold on, where did that one come from?
I've actually forgotten about it.
Because
That's not a bad shout.
He didn't do anything wrong, did
The
he?
prob- again, going back to that squad of 2006, I felt he was the one that was forgotten about, and actually he's probably the one that came out of it the best.
I think he might have lobbed one in every now and again, but I think only the odd one. He definitely wasn't.
And he was
Rob Green.
fantastic for Tottenham.
He was a great keeper.
Which I know it doesn't matter, but he
No,
was
he was
great
very
for
good
Tottenham.
for Leeds and for Tottenham.
Yeah. Okay. Right back.
So right back again, we'll make it a clean slate. It's
Gary
Gary Neville.
Yeah.
There's not a debate, because after that, as I said, I watched Glenn Johnson, and that was painful, and now I watch Carl Walker, and that's even more painful. So I'll stick with.
What about Reece James? Where are you on Reece James?
I like Reece James. I like Reece James, and
Alexander Arnold.
Alexander Arnold. We'll get onto Alexander Arnold later, I'm sure. I like Alexander Arnold, but I don't think he can defend. The good thing about Gary Neville, he's a cracking defender, and my right back, if I was England right now, would be Wan-Bissaka, but we'll get into that later, I'm sure.
Can't disagree with Dan on that one.
Okay.
My left back, Ryan mentioned him. Obviously, I was a bit too young for Stuart Pearce, so I mean it's Ashley Cole for me, and he walks into every England team in my generation.
Chris Powell.
I love Chris Powell, but he played 5 caps.
Nutmeg Guardiola.
He did. I will give an honourable mention to Luke Shaw, because in my generation, I know he's not maybe the player Ashley Cole was, but as again going back to the sentimental value for me of that, the run we've just had in the Euros, Luke Shaw was so important to that team. Still is going to be in the future.
Luke Shaw has time to be better than Ashley Cole.
He does, but right
at
now,
the moment, he's not.
That's an interesting one for the future.
But yeah, I think Luke Shaw deserves a mention, because the goal in the Euros,
I love Luke Shaw.
the Euros, the way he played for that whole tournament, he was the right choice at left back, and
the
he would
way-
always hold my heart because of the goal. I know we didn't win
The way
it,
he came
but
back from the
memory.
way Jose Mourinho slaughtered him.
Yeah, which we've spoke about.
Which
before,
we
I
spoke
think.
Centre half, Stan. Come on, I'm dying to hear this one.
This was good.
It's, I mean, for my generation, I don't think it's difficult. It's Rio and John Terry,
Yeah.
because
No, that's fair from your generation.
Sol Campbell.
You're not tempted with Harry Maguire?
I was.
Or
He was
John
down
Stones?
on my not John Stones. Harry Maguire is on my honourable mention, because again, the World Cup in 2018, he was sensational, and then he was great at Euros where he wasn't fit when we started.
And he had a bad season previously, because he came out of that
Off-field
summer
problems
and he
as
had
well.
offset. But so last season was all about him getting his confidence, and then in the Euros, Harry Maguire was back to his best.
And obviously
wasn't
Terry and Ferdinand, even I know the options weren't great, but were still England centre backs at 32, 33. Sol Campbell was a good centre back, couldn't break the team ahead of them.
he? So with John Terry, you're not picking Wayne Bridges left back?
No, do you know? I did consider Gary Cahill, but
Really?
I considered
What?
Gary Cahill,
How?
but I didn't put. He didn't get in.
Well, no, he's got a smaller pool to pick.
I've
from,
got a
so
much
he's
smaller
gonna have
pool.
to- he's
If
got-
who else could not?
Who else? Yeah, he's
Because
got
after Campbell and Harry Maguire, there's a massive drop to the next. In my generations, there's who else is there? Phil Jones and Chris Smalling. No, thank you.
Gary Cahill is a no for me.
No, I wouldn't
No,
either, which is why he's not made the squad.
Yeah, that's fine.
And then obviously that's the defence. Then the midfield, I've gone for a flat 4-4-2.
Go on then.
So the midfield is, if you saw the 2006 World Cup, Joe Cole on the left wing, because my left wingers in my generations have been Paul Scholes, who
Goal
was not a
against
left
Sweden.
winger.
The goal against
Joe
Sweden.
Cole, the goal against Sweden. Aaron Lennon played out there. Stuart Downing, and then now Sterling / Rashford. No, not a dig at Sterling or Rashford. That's just who plays there now. So for me, Joe Cole was the best player there. Beckham on the right. Again, I don't think England's wingers over my generation have been superb. My generation really of English football is 2002 onwards.
I'll have to say, from my pool of players, 1966, we played without wingers. We were the wingless wonders, England. But the only other right winger I think that I would consider, and this neither of you would know, you'll know the name, but you won't remember him, was Steve Coppell.
Managed Palace.
Who was flying. It was a Man United player and flying until he played Hungary and got done, and that reached his career.
I will chuck in a controversial one here.
Oh, here we go.
From Euro 96. Darren Anderton. This was before he got injured.
The
He
English
played on the
nation.
right side. He did very well for Tottenham, and he did very well at
I
Euro
only ever knew him
96.
as the bloke who was injured.
Yeah, he was. Unfortunately, he was injured for the majority of his career, except for Euro '96, unfortunately, and World Cup '98.
So then my midfield pairing, I think, It's Gerrard and Lampard.
Gerrard and Lampard. I don't think they can play together.
No, but we did. I asked you. I asked you the question before we started. Is it a team or an 11? And you said it was an 11.
Yeah, it's an 11.
So for me, Gerrard and Lampard. Scholes was obviously in consideration, but as I said,
Scholes.
I watched Scholes as a left winger.
No, I understand.
Yeah, no, I can see
I
where
couldn't
he's-
pick him
yeah.
as a central midfielder
Yeah.
because for England, for me, I didn't see him.
But you've
there.
gone for Lampard
Gerrard
and
and Lampard.
together.
But because it wasn't a team, I asked you that question.
The thing is, with that, they could both tackle, they could both track back, they could both get forward, and they'd both get you goals. And they didn't just score against; they scored when you needed goals.
I will say I think they could have played together. I think the manager,
The right manager.
I think the manager wasn't tactically enough aware as to
Fair
how
point.
to get the balance between the two of them.
If you remember, at times in Euro 2004, we were playing Scholes on the left with Gerrard and Lampard and Hargreaves in DM.
Yes.
What's going on there?
And also,
Hargreaves at DM, not a problem. I
No,
I
but
thought
in
he
the
was a good
formation
player.
with Scholes as one side, what are you doing?
Yeah.
and also the other thing is Steven Gerrard is massively underrated with his tackling ability, because what people don't realise is Gerrard actually started his England career at right back and
Yeah.
then moved into central midfield.
Yeah, no, that's what I said. I said that that
Played right mid as well for in the 2001
that
against
Lampard
Germany.
and Gerrard, both of them they've got everything. They've got the passing range, they've got the tackling, they've got the positional sense. They can get forward, they can get the important goals. And you got to remember Lampard's goal that didn't happen.
Quick breaking
Just allowed-
question,
Go on.
as we're discussing these two. Out of the two of them, which one was the
no,
better
it's
player?
Gerrard.
Gerrard.
I agree.
He carried Liverpool when they were crap.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it was also
Lampard had great players around him. Gerrard at
I
times
also
carried
think
Liverpool. Yes, I agree.
Gerrard was far more athletic than Lampard.
Right.
I love Steve Jolly. He's one of my favourite
With
players.
that.
of
Oh,
all
Stevie
time.
G.
So, honourable mention again.
Go on.
Oh, you said Owen Hargreaves. I loved Owen Hargreaves.
Unfortunately, injuries
But
slaughtered him.
so again, going back
Sadly.
on, it is a reoccurring theme in my team so far. The memories of the last two tournaments. So Declan Rice. I know he's not the player that
He's getting there.
he's
isn't
not the player that
He will be
these
in about
people
4
are.
years, I think.
But the way that tournament, the Euros just gone, Declan Rice got in team of the tournament, and there were people arguing about how.
Yeah.
Especially when you
what are you
consider
doing?
how impressive Italy's midfield was. They could have basically walked away with the midfield of team of the year.
Right. Your
Declan
forwards.
I think I didn't really even have to think about the forward.
Go on then.
Wayne Rooney,
Yeah.
same reason. I mean, could play up front, could play in midfield, could play on the wing for England if
He was just a
told
natural
to.
footballer, wasn't he?
Yes,
He could play
brilliant.
anywhere.
And
Including in goal, I might add. He
the,
had
the
fun
only
going
the
in
only
goal.
one I was, he probably shouldn't have gone to Euro 2016 when we played Wales.
He shouldn't have gone to the World Cup in 2006.
No, but I mean from a point of view as
when
in
did he do his
it was
metaphor?
2006. It was the same
So
year
we
as
had- yeah.
Rio missed, didn't he?
Yeah,
So
2006. He should never have gone
for
to the World Cup.
2016, he was picked
He
to
wasn't
play
picked.
on. Didn't he play on the wing in 2016 for England? Because we played Sturridge through the middle. Yeah.
Sorry?
Well, and Welbeck, but we'll get on to Welbeck later. And then up front with him, Harry Kane.
I can't argue with
I
that.
mean,
because I think he's going to
again,
break. I think he's going to break.
He's
England's
going to
scoring
be
record.
England's all-time record scorer.
Yeah.
That he is the only one of two England players to
And
score to be a leading goal scorer at a World Cup finals. Him and Lineker.
Lineker, Golden Boot. Yeah.
I mean, he's been the leader of the side that I've seen go to a Euro final, World Cup semi-final.
And I have a sneaking suspicion he will lift his trophy as England captain.
Oh no, don't say that.
We'll get on to England, but I don't agree with that one.
I hope so, but I'm not sure. And my honorary mention as a striker,
Go on. Darren Bent?
Darren Bent, but for no reason rather than I love him. No, in all seriousness, we've commented on Michael Owen, and I agree with what Ryan said. He had a good spell. I remember him doing 2002 really good, 2004 at the Euros sensational, then 2006 at the World Cup was where he fell off a cliff, and Rooney was the star, and then after that Rooney played up front with Heskey, and Owen kind of fell off, didn't he?
2006 was the stupid mistake that Sven made, was taking Theo Walcott when he should have taken
Darren Bent,
who was the former
Jermaine Defoe.
striker.
Jermaine Defoe was there.
Jermaine Defoe was in the squad.
No,
but
he wasn't. He got
was.
left
No, they
out
both
in
should have
the
been
end.
there.
They both should have
It,
been
it was
there.
an
Yeah, I
included.
know.
Yeah,
You're right, because the Rice for Sell went.
But
Yeah, he
Bent
was
scored
included.
more. Bent had Device for Sell ever get fucking England.
But
cap.
Defoe and
How
Bent,
did Francis Jeffers ever get an England?
Jay
cap?
Bothroyd.
in the
Never
box.
word.
What
Jay
about?
Bothroyd.
Jay Bothroyd.
But yeah,
Anyway,
Michael Ricketts.
That's my 1 to 11. As I said, I've got the honorary mentions of
Listen.
Rice, Shaw, and Maguire. Strikers wise, I mean, my only other really options are, I think I wanted to mention Peter Crouch.
Yeah.
Because I know we were playing absolute rubbish teams, but his record for England is.
And he
It's not
also,
bad.
I've got to say, he also does a banging podcast.
Yeah, and
as
if he
well.
wants to come on ours,
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to have him.
Crouchy, pass the pod. Listen, that's the end of that one. We've done so much on the England team, we haven't got time for anything else. Thanks very much for listening. Dan, what's the email address?
the email address is footballfunderspod@gmail.com.
And they can tweet us.
They can tweet us at FBallFunders on Twitter.
Excellent.
And the Facebook page I hand to Ryan because I can never remember.
It's the Football Funders podcast page.
Don't forget, we're sponsored by the Proper Blokes Club. Give them a follow on Facebook and on the interweb.